The history of primates is our own history. It began 65 million years ago when the ancestors of the apes were the contemporaries of the last dinosaurs. On the island of Madagascar today, we can still find one of the first links in the evolutionary strategy that led to man. The island is an unusual place. It hosts any number of endemic plants and animals that are found nowhere else. In Madagascar, life often takes on surprising and unusual forms. The butterflies have developed their camouflage strategy, and the chameleons, like this parson chameleon, have grown to unusual proportions. This one is about 60 centimeters long. In the absence of any large predators, nothing in evolution happened here the way it did elsewhere. Primates in particular have remained at an elementary stage of development, which gives us an idea of what the primitive species may have been. These arboreal animals are called prosimians, or in other words, pre-monkeys. They already have a few characteristics of the primate order, including well-developed fingers. Like all monkeys, lemurs are good with their hands. They have another characteristic too that corresponds to all primates. Their brain is more developed than in most other animals. As regards reproduction, certain lemurs like the sifaka also tend their young for a very long time. This baby will hang on to its mother's belly for months. Other lemurs, conversely, seem to rely on larger numbers, even if this means that the babies are less developed and less well tended. These long white primates are verosifakas. They move very nimbly in foliage, using their prehensile hands and feet, and they use their tails for balance. Sifakas, also called propithecus, live in groups of a few individuals dominated by a female. This is one of the important points that distinguish lemurs from monkeys. For lemurs, the female has ascendance over the group, whereas in monkeys, by and large, the males are dominant. The sifakas have very short upper limbs, which gives them a curious look when they come down to the ground. By choosing to live by day, these lemurs have taken the monkey's evolutionary niche. There are no real monkeys in Madagascar. There are several prosimian families. Sifakas are Indridae, while this ring-tailed lemur or makikata belongs to the Lemuridae family. The makikata is also a diurnal animal, easily recognized by its long ringed tail. It's a very sociable animal that communicates by means of odors that it uses almost like a language. It has odoriferous glands under its arms and at the wrists, so it can leave its signature everywhere it goes. The lemur systematically marks the trees it uses, and this helps pacify social relations. Two rivals for a female will duel at a distance rather than fight each other physically by leaving a more or less convincing trail of odors. Lemurs try to avoid wasting energy. They devote their efforts to looking for food. From this standpoint, these ring-tailed lemurs have adopted a remarkable mating strategy. The female gives no apparent sign of the period of fertility. So the male has a better chance at reproduction if he is always with her. By giving up polygamy, this species lives a very peaceful life. One of the lemur's obvious traits is its very long snout that looks rather like a dog's muzzle. This is a clear sign of the importance of the sense of smell for prosimians. While this ruffed lemur relies essentially on its nose, real monkeys like this red monkey use visual perception more. Their eyesight has developed to the detriment of the sense of smell. Real monkeys, like men, have binocular vision, so they see the world accurately and in relief. This faculty enables them to implement many strategies to take advantage of the world around them. There is a large variety of monkeys. About 160 species have been identified and broken down in some 15 families. These are Catarini. The name comes from a Greek expression meaning that they have close-set nostrils. Sometimes they're also referred to by their geographic distribution, and in that case they're called Old World monkeys. This marmoset and this howler monkey belong to the second group, the Platyrini, which means flat nose this time. The Platyrinis are also called New World monkeys in reference to their geographic distribution. They are found in the forests of Central and South America. Like this lion tamarin or these capuchin monkeys, the New World monkeys are generally smaller than their big brothers in Africa or Asia. They're smaller, but they may have a better developed brain. For example, they use it to develop an opportunist food strategy. In principle, Saimiri monkeys, more commonly called squirrel monkeys, and capuchin monkeys have similar diets. They are fruit eaters that round off their diet with proteins from invertebrates. Because of their size, small monkeys like the capuchins cannot tear the bark off trees to get to the insects underneath. So they have a different strategy. They go down to the ground to search for caterpillars or larvae. The squirrel monkey's skull is well developed in comparison to the size of its body. Its brain is proportionally larger than a man's. But don't be fooled by appearances. In fact, this monkey, like all New World monkeys, is relatively unintelligent. In any case, less intelligent than African or Asian monkeys. For these primates, the father is the one who carries the young monkey on its back and who takes care of it. Squirrel monkeys live in groups that often include about 40 individuals. For these small species with many predators, the advantages of a group are obvious. Some can eat while others stand guard. Life in a group is part of a useful strategy for these monkeys, rather a social constraint. It's adopted by all American species, even the larger ones, like these spider monkeys. These fruit-eating monkeys live in a community of a dozen individuals. Their social organization is a merger-split association, meaning that they get together in groups, but these groups split up very quickly to seek food. Like the spider monkey, most New World monkeys have a prehensile tail. It is literally used like a fifth limb. None of the Asian or African monkeys have this characteristic, although Humboldt's woolly monkey has the best developed tail. The lagartrich is a woolly monkey, a primate found essentially in Brazilian forests. These monkeys are big eaters. The Portuguese colonialists called them macaco barrigudos, or belly monkeys. They live in couples or in groups of about 10 individuals. After an evolutionary strategy that is paradoxical to say the least, the woolly monkey is covered with thick fur, although it lives in a warm climate. The advantages of this very special tail are much easier to understand. This woolly monkey has a mixed diet. It eats fruit and leaves. In other words, it finds happiness in the trees. Trees are its domain, particularly since it can reach every single twig. When it moves to seek food or for any other reason, the woolly monkey hangs on with its hand, foot, or tail indifferently. It isn't always easy to say which of the 3 limbs it is using when you observe these animals in the foliage. Even when hanging by its tail and despite its weight, the monkey isn't taking a risk. It has a firm grip. No fur grows on the underside of the tip of its tail, and this favors adhesion in the slippery branches. Thanks to the tail, its hands and feet are free, which means it can take on all kinds of acrobatic postures to fully exploit any available resource. These monkeys make full use of their anatomical peculiarity, which consequently means limiting their exploration of the environment. These New World monkeys have remained in a single habitat, the forest. The prehensile tail is not present in any of the African or Asian monkeys. There were no exchanges of primates between the 2 worlds. No New World species is found in the Old World and vice versa. The Borneo jungle is a good environment for observing several species of Old World monkeys. This environment is threatened by deforestation, but the parts that are still intact hold unusual and extremely diversified flora and fauna. This monkey, swinging from branch to branch as it follows the river, is a crab-eating macaque, one of 19 macaque species. Like all macaques, it is a platyrrhinian. The name crab-eating macaque is said to come from its habit of letting its tail float on the water until a crab comes to pinch it. But in fact, no one has ever seen it fish in this way. Still, this monkey appears to be active and intelligent from a very early age. The aptitude of this young monkey to cope with an unexpected situation has developed gradually. This is always the case for the most evolved species. They all need a long learning process. Macaques travel frequently to the trees, but they prefer to remain on the ground. They are omnivorous and particularly opportunistic animals. An effective strategy, judging by the remarkable progress the group has made. Macaques have conquered all habitats. From this jungle in the Far East to the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, they seem perfectly at ease everywhere. When they walk on the ground, we see that macaques do not put their entire hand on the ground. They walk only on the first two joints. This habit corresponds to all Old World monkeys, whereas American monkeys use the entire palm of the hand for support. Monkeys that spend most of their time on the ground represent a minority of species. Their morphology is adapted to this way of living. This is particularly obvious for the patas, also referred to as the red monkey, an African monkey with very long legs. This patas is seeking food in high grasses. It rounds off its essentially vegetarian diet by catching a few insects. Its reaction to danger is an unmistakable indication that it prefers the ground to the trees. Rather than seeking shelter in the trees, it flees on the ground. But the patas is an exception. There are others too, but for most monkeys, trees are their shelter and their favorite playground. This is a blue monkey. It belongs to the large Cercopithecidae family, like the patas and the Asian macaques. In Africa, they are often referred to as guenons. This primate is found in the Central and East African rainforests. These monkeys are engrossed in a delousing ceremony. This is a great moment for monkeys, and much more than simple grooming. It's a strategy in itself. A time to relax and to trust others, to develop cooperation that soothes the strong tensions that can arise between members of a group. Social relations are crucial for monkeys. They all live in a troop or a group where they establish very strong ties with their fellows. For the Cercopithecidae, life in common unfolds in calm, stable relations. This omnivorous monkey is in fact essentially a vegetarian. It eats 100 different plants. 1/4 of its diet consists of leaves, and it can essentially get by without drinking thanks to the dietary water in its food. Since it's not fussy, its strategy is quite simple. It stays in the tree to reduce the risk of meeting predators. For many species of monkey, survival and prosperity are closely related to the condition of the forest. The forest serves as a pantry that is more or less full. Generally speaking, the more variety there is in a species' diet, the more chance the species has to find suitable food all year long. If an animal doesn't have to move and expose itself, its life is considerably simpler. Its strategic options have been defined once and for all. They no longer concern individual behavior. They belong to the heritage of the species. These monkeys with handsome white beards are the unchallenged champions of this unruffled strategy. They are Colobus monkeys, large monkeys that grow to 70 centimeters and weigh some 15 kilograms. These animals are strictly tree dwellers. They are hard to observe because they almost never come down to the ground. They live in the foliage some 20 or 30 meters up. Their diet is what determines their lifestyle. They can easily digest any kind of leaf. The secret of this faculty lies in their very particular stomach, a complex voluminous organ where the leaves can ferment. At the same time, it neutralizes any toxins. Colobus monkeys spend a lot of time eating because they need to absorb nearly 3 kilograms of this relatively non-nourishing food every day. The almost unlimited availability of food eliminates potential competition on that score. So Colobus monkey communities are peaceful. They consist of groups of about a dozen individuals where there is no real hierarchy. Given their favorable diet, Colobus monkeys have no reason to have a specific birthing season. The young are all white when they're born at any time of year after 6 months gestation. Like all monkeys, the mother attentively tends her young. When the baby monkey reaches 6 months old, it will be able to jump from branch to branch like an adult, whose long hair acts something like a parachute. There's only one thing that brings a Colobus monkey to the ground occasionally. It eats dirt to stock up on mineral salts. The green monkey must envy the simple, peaceful lives of the Colobus monkey. This little member of the Cercopitheci family weighs just a few kilograms and is continually confronted with uncertain options. In theory, this is an arboreal monkey, a Cercopithecus which, like the other members of the family, should take to the trees. But this species chose to break away from the trees to take advantage of the food potential found only on the ground. By choosing this lifestyle, the green monkey is exposed to an incredible number of predators that can carry it off by land or by air, given its small size. Despite the potential danger, and despite the fact that it could feed on buds and flowers, the green monkey is incorrigible. It comes down to the ground to hunt for lizards, eggs, and small rodents. For the sake of prudence, it never goes too far from a woody area and stays totally away from open areas. Faced with a specific threat, it takes refuge in the trees. The caracal lynx is one of some 20 potential predators of the green monkey. Few species in nature have as many threats coming from all sides. Nevertheless, this little monkey has spread in an extraordinary way. It is now found all over Africa south of the Sahara. In all animals, survival of the species depends first of all on the capacity of the animals to cope during the touchiest time, the first few weeks of life. They must learn quickly to become familiar with their environment, to identify their predators, and to be attentive enough to see them coming. The duration of gestation is related to the speed of development of the newborns. For the green monkey, gestation is almost a month longer than in the blue monkey, which has the same size, but which has few predators, as we have seen. As a result, the baby green monkeys are born with a better developed brain, and they are faster to acquire survival techniques and strategies. The green monkey's morphology does not encourage it to choose between the ground and the trees. It's just halfway between the arboreal genons and monkeys like the patas, whose long limbs are better adapted to living on the ground. The green monkey is unsure of its lifestyle. In fact, it organizes case by case in view of the characteristics of the environment. Baboons, on the other hand, another primate in the savannah, have answered the question more decisively. For these large, powerfully built monkeys, trees serve just to provide a reserve of food and a place to sleep at night. In the morning, all the baboons, large and small, leave their shelter to roam the wide open spaces. They come down in no specific order, but their places in the trees are well defined. The dominant males occupy the lowest branches. The highest perches are less comfortable, but they're less dangerous too, in case of an attack by a predator. Baboons are perfectly at ease on the ground because their morphology has adapted to this terrain. These monkeys, the largest of which can weigh 40 kilograms, have powerful limbs. They're built for walking and can cover several kilometers a day in the search for food. They eat just about everything they can find, roots and plants, as well as insects, eggs, scorpions, or lizards. This is probably the only time when baboons fear for their safety. They feel vulnerable when they drink. They could be attacked by a lion, hyenas, or even pythons. But their main predator is the leopard. If they have no other alternative, baboons won't hesitate to fight, even big cats. This offensive strategy has cost this large male part of his mobility. To discourage predators, staying in a group is the best counter policy the baboons have found. The size of baboon groups varies considerably. There can be as many as 200 individuals or as few as a dozen or less. In any case, whenever they move, baboons organize in a well-defined order. The young males take the lead, followed by the females. Mothers with their babies and the younger animals keep to the rear with the old males. As long as the group stays together, baboons don't have much to fear. All these individual energies combined make an enormous defensive potential. Baboon communities can often include a large number of individuals with clear ranking of their society because their brain is particularly well developed. Life in a community takes a lot of know-how. Each individual must know his place precisely, as well as that of the other members of the group. The larger the group, the more complicated the relations between individuals. Natural selection favors the most intelligent animals, capable of keeping all this information in mind and acting in consequence. The baboon has succeeded perfectly in managing all parameters of its complex society, and consequently it has done remarkably well in all environments, from the Namibian desert to the tropical forest of Uganda. The time spent on relations with others is a good indication of the level of evolution of a species. Grooming can take several hours of the monkey's day. It always has significance, and often the groomer may be seeking some kind of advantage in return. Sometimes females will delouse young mothers to get an opportunity or permission to play with the babies for a while. Baboons are well developed at birth after 6 months of gestation, but they're still very dependent on their mother for more than a year. During this period, the female spends all her time tending the baby. Education is a full-time job for the mother, who must cope with the daily needs of her offspring and her own food problems. These animals do not stock fat, so mothers must eat more to nurse their young. Baboons sometimes join up with herds of impalas. And the troublemakers are not the ones you might think. The baboons have gone back to a tree to eat. Their activity is very well timed. 90 individuals in the group are doing the same thing at the same time. This strategy, which consists of concentrating on doing the same thing together at the same time, limits dispersion that would reduce the community's cohesion and strength. The impalas gather under the tree to enjoy the treats that the monkeys knock down. This is a good example of a cooperation strategy between species. The monkeys tolerate the antelopes because of their sharp senses that can detect predators. Once again, the baboons come down from the tree. They have made a conscious choice to come out of the shelter of the protective branches to take unrestricted advantage of the resources of their environment. This is not just a simple option for gathering food. It is also an irresistible urge to exercise the character and morphology that they've refined over time. Barely 50,000 years ago, these same landscapes were the territory of giant herbivorous baboons. But they were too heavy and too slow and were unable to resist predators. Life on the ground is often an unreasonable temptation for monkeys, and the baboon's success is an exception. Whatever the continent, the best chance of seeing primates is by looking up and gazing at the trees. Sometimes they sit very high in the foliage. The only sign of their presence may be a movement of the leaves. The animal doing such spectacular morning exercises is an orangutan, the only ape in Asia. It's only found in a few Indonesian forests, specifically on the islands of Sumatra and Borneo. But 10,000 years ago, it still lived on the continent, in China. With its extraordinarily long arms, this ape is perfectly adapted to moving in the trees and swinging from one tree to another. The huge trees in the forest are its habitat. Indonesians made no mistake when they called it orangutan, meaning a man of the forest. Its mastery of branches is impressive, but as soon as it begins to walk on a trunk, its style and silhouette give every indication that it belongs to a family close to ours, the ape family. It's the largest arboreal primate on the planet, and it's solitary, which makes it different from other apes. This social strategy can be explained since the orangutan has little to fear from predators, whereas monkeys constitute groups essentially because this is something they must worry about. Orangutans spend long moments posed or suspended in the branches without moving. They can hold on indifferently with their arms or legs or any combination of the two. When it moves slowly for short distances. In a whole day, a female only moves 500 to 600 meters on the average. These apes have a remarkable memory of the smallest corner of the forest where they live. They know which branches are comfortable to take a rest and precisely where food resources can be found. The orangutan is a fruit eater, like all apes. On occasion, it rounds off its diet with young leaves, mushrooms, or insects. The males sometimes come down to the ground to seek termites, but by and large, like the females, they remain constantly suspended from the branches as if they were waiting for time to go by. This strategy of a life in slow motion can be explained by their sedentary habits and their understanding of things. Fruit will ripen in time, and it will be where they expect it. When it does, they will head straight for it. There's no urgency due to their physiology. Sexual life begins only at 13, and full adulthood comes 6 or 7 years later. For that matter, there's no hurry. If their environment is intact, these apes can live to 50. Nothing hurries the young either. They are born after a long gestation almost comparable to humans. They are nimble at an early age. They suckle their mothers for 7 or 8 years, and all that time they never stray except to play with a brother or sister. These unselfish demonstrations of tenderness between members of the same family recall that despite their vegetative behavior, these apes belong to one of the most evolved animal species. The orangutan has all the characteristics of a true primate, of course, with a few that classify it in the ape category. The lack of a tail, a particular dental pattern, a flat rib cage. On observing these animals, the way they use their hands, their facial expressions, their gestures, it seems obvious that the difference in the evolution of apes is not restricted to these anatomical details. They have another type of intelligence that dictates dissimilar behavior and different strategies. While the social life of this red ape is peaceful and leisurely, the smallest African ape is complex, active, constantly moving and even turbulent. This foot belongs to a chimpanzee. Chimpanzees, the animals genetically closest to human beings, have the most complex and unpredictable behavior found in apes. These animals are naturally extremely sociable, but this sociability is expressed in every kind of comportment, including violence. Certain chimpanzees have been seen deliberately killing their fellows. For the time being, everything is quiet in this group, busy with its most peaceful occupation, eating. Chimpanzees are omnivorous, but they have a clear preference for fruit. When these apes are not eating, they indulge in their social and mating relations that are always somewhat conflictual. The relationships of dominance between males often disturbs the tranquility of the group, and in addition, the two sexes are often at cross purposes. The problem is a simple one. Male chimpanzees never leave their community. They stay for life. But the females easily switch from one community to another, at least once in a lifetime. All in all, this is a good strategy that keeps inbreeding at a reasonable level. The males don't agree, of course, and they do everything they can to keep the females from checking out what is happening elsewhere. The language used by chimpanzees is so expressive and sophisticated that at times we can understand it perfectly. This ape has just found an anthill and is planning on enjoying some additional protein. But the discovery didn't go unnoticed, and one of the members of the community is bent on sharing the treat. He will be told in no uncertain terms that he is not welcome. Clearly, the language used isn't strong enough to discourage the unwelcome guest. The apes finally conclude that a few ants are not worth a dispute that may become violent, so they sit down to dine together. Chimpanzees, like all animals, ingurgitate parasites as they eat. These can be a real handicap and even a mortal threat at times. These apes have discovered that certain plants have curative properties, and they will collect them in the forest that serves as their pharmacy. This is the last refuge of apes, and particularly the largest of them, the gorilla. Like all apes, it walks on its knuckles. The lowland gorilla lives in Western Africa and a small part of Central Africa. This male weighs more than 120 kilograms and is strictly vegetarian. These massive animals have a remarkably well-developed foot that is already predisposed for walking as a biped. This little gorilla shows how far the primate order has evolved from the lemurs with their dog-like muzzles and from the monkeys. The division between monkeys and apes was made 25 million years ago, but they have a common ancestor that looked more like a gorilla than a Colobus monkey or a macaque. The reproduction strategy of apes corresponds to a highly evolved species. They take their time, the time to have their young and the time to raise them. A mother gorilla will generally let 4 years go by between two births. Given the mortality of young animals, she will finally have a limited number of offspring, 2 to 6 individuals at most. Like all primates, gorillas are fruit eaters, but in theory they could eat a more varied diet. These mountain gorillas living in the Virunga Mountains in the border region between Rwanda and the Congo have demonstrated this by ravaging this cornfield. They have taken risks to get to these lands cultivated by men. They have no choice, because these huge apes have trouble finding food due to a physiological particularity. Unlike monkeys, apes have to find ripe fruit because they cannot digest it before it ripens. They don't have the digestive enzymes to fight the bitter tannin that protects the fruit and the seeds it contains until the seeds are ready to sprout. Gorillas are a bit like us. If they eat green fruit, they will have heartburn and may well get diarrhea. This dependence on ripe fruit has had a considerable influence on the strategy of these apes in their quest for food and their social organization. Because of their great size, gorillas need large quantities of food. But in nature, fruit is a scattered resource, unlike what they find here. In the tropics, trees do not all bear fruit at the same time. There's always a tree bearing fruit somewhere, but one may be quite distant from another. So the apes had to move to seek their food and to separate into small groups so as not to have to share more than they find. The gorilla did not make the same choice as the chimpanzee on this account. There are two ways of solving this problem, either covering a large territory with a large group, or covering a smaller territory with a smaller number of individuals. Chimpanzees chose the first option. They are quite mobile and often move 5 or 6 kilometers a day. Gorillas, on the other hand, are more sedentary, but their group is smaller. Gorillas live in groups of 10 to 20 members. The group consists of an adult silverbacked male, 5 to 12 adult females, and their young, plus a few younger males that, in principle, do not have access to females. Everyone lives in a good understanding. Gorillas and apes in general had a golden age. 20 million years ago, they were represented by some 30 species in Africa and Asia. Today's deforestation is not what led to their decline. 10 million years ago, the climate got drier, causing the forest to shrink. Today, the ape's territory is shrinking further, this time because of men. There are now fewer than 500 mountain gorillas in this area, the only place they live on the planet. Life in this clan is peaceful. It corresponds to a strict schedule. After looking for food together, and without ever fighting over it, the gorillas come back to their nests. They set up their nests on the ground. Chimpanzees and orangutans also make a nest to sleep in, but they put it in a tree. Gorillas have chosen to live in harems without making a fuss. Since they don't move a lot, they haven't adopted a territorial behavior. They are fond of their living space, of course, but they're not tempted to seek more elsewhere. It seems as if the wisest behavior is to stay on the spot, surrounded by a few females, which gives the best chance of mating. As long as the young gorillas are dependent on their mother's milk, the mother is not available to mate again. The entire community seems to have adopted a patient attitude for whatever it may need. Little gorillas take a long time to climb down from their mother's chest and develop really autonomous movement. They only begin to walk at about 8 months. Slow to get going, they come into life very gradually. This favors the development of greater intelligence and greater longevity, but this too has a price. In the event of an ecological upset, these animals do not reproduce fast enough to adapt to the new conditions. We share a long history with our primate cousins. Much has happened. The survival or disappearance of a species often hangs on a thread, woven by the strategic options it has adopted. Chance and a subtle balance has brought us to where we are today after 50 million years of evolution. No doubt we have a responsibility to these members of our family, more than to any other species, to give them a chance to continue to exist.